Is the covenant path unfair, or are we just missing the full picture? I think we've all had this sort of conversation. A close friend comes to us and says that they're leaving the church. We start to dig deeper and they explain why they've decided to do so. Boiled down, they don't really feel like they fit the gospel mold, especially when it comes to the ideals found in the family of proclamation to the world. Maybe they experience same-sex attraction or some sort of questions around their gender. Maybe they've gone through divorce or abuse or some kind of loss. Whatever the case, their life feels too complex to live the gospel's framework. I think that raises a tough question. How are faithful Latter-day Saints supposed to respond when life, or the lives of those that we love, doesn't seem to fit neatly into the plan?
Some might say, I just don't fit in with you people in the church. I don't think I could live up to your standards.
Going back to the hypothetical friend, you hear their pain and sympathize, but their view of the covenant path feels so completely foreign. To them, it's restrictive and unfair, but to you, it's liberating and hopeful. How is it that you grew up in the same gospel and arrived at such opposite conclusions? Is this just a case of differing opinions, or are one or both of you missing something? Especially when it comes to sensitive cultural issues, I think some, such as this hypothetical friend, feel like scripture is silent. Others feel like prophets haven't spoken clearly enough. Some even conclude that God himself must just be unmerciful and unloving. Like Nephi's brothers said in the Book of Mormon, "The Lord maketh no such thing known unto us." Whether or not they inquired of the Lord, they don't seem to recognize his hand in their lives. Latter-day Saints in this situation who try to respond with both compassion and conviction often feel stuck. If you affirm doctrine, you're labeled unloving. And if you show love, you're sometimes accused of compromise. I think many in this sort of realm and situation feel lost, doctrinally confused, and emotionally bogged down by the latest social pressure campaign.
I now take the opportunity of reading to you this proclamation.
The family proclamation, especially when it first came out, used to be so unifying, even culturally. Now, even just mentioning it sometimes feels controversial. Like we have to talk about it in hushed tones or offer a slew of caveats if we bring it up. Eternal truths once seen as common sense now feel out of step with the world, and even with some church members. In reality, the gospel of Jesus Christ offers all of the answers to the challenges that we face. The scriptures are not silent. God's words have not ceased. Modern prophets have continued to teach us how to move forward with both virtue and charity. We just need to look closer and consider the full picture. The purpose of this new series is to do just that. With sensitive issues as our starting point, my goals are to recenter our confidence in scripture and prophetic teachings, empower us to live the gospel with boldness and compassion, and demystify why life's complexities don't have to unmoor us from eternal truth. I'll share ideas, stories, prophetic teachings, and scriptural insights on how, despite life's messiness, we can choose to stay faithful anyway. Now, of course, that is easier said than done. To say it again, life is messy. The covenant path on paper is a lot cleaner than the covenant path played out in real life. And that doesn't mean that we should abandon the beautiful simplicity of the path, but it does mean that we shouldn't be afraid to wrestle with the messiness. The covenant path can sound oppressive if you start to isolate a piece of the plan and then try to sell it as the entire plan. For example, if you look at the law of chastity in isolation, or the need for marriage to be between a man and a woman when considering those who experience same-sex attraction, these commandments might not make a whole lot of sense. Without the full picture of the plan of salvation and factoring in the mercy of Christ, they can even start to seem harsh. But why aren't they? To explore one possible answer to this question, I wanted to draw from my own life. So as with everyone else, I have been through my fair share of hardship and complexity. I experienced same-sex attraction, but determined early in life that I wanted to live a covenant relationship with God. And as part of that, I decided to pursue a temple marriage to my amazing wife, Amanda. And to boil down years and years of experience in just a few sentences, God has helped us to cultivate a life-giving and beautiful marriage. But I'm sure I'll have more to say about that later. The real trial and complexity came just 1 year after marriage, when we got pregnant with our first son, Milo. I think he's used to it already. Have the camera in his face enough. Hey. Through completely unforeseen events, Milo was born prematurely at just 24 and a half weeks. That's a mere 3 weeks shy of the record for the earliest surviving premature baby. Milo weighed in at a whopping 1 pound, 8 ounces, and was barely longer than a dollar bill. He was considered a micro-preemie and was relatively healthy for a baby that premature. Unfortunately, after 3 all too short weeks, he developed an infection and he passed away in Amanda's arms. This left us feeling obviously confused and heartbroken, and to be frank, rather abandoned by God. For months and years after losing Milo, we wrestled with the question of why God would allow this to happen. And to be honest, we sometimes still wonder. Having children was at the very top of both of our lists, so losing our very first child felt like such a profound and personal blow coming directly from God. The world paints a partial picture and sells it as truth. But truth rarely makes sense when we leave out key details. Without a full picture of the plan of salvation, losing your child and experiencing same-sex attraction while being asked to live the law of chastity could sound like cruel chess moves from an indifferent God. But thankfully, through modern revelation, we understand God to be none of those things. He's the type of God who wants to encircle us about eternally in the arms of his love.
His is a Father's pure love, universal to all, yet personal to each.
We may not get a fully satisfying answer as to why we experience all of these challenges and complexities, but we can come to know personally this God who loved us so much that he gave his only begotten Son. And on a personal note, that love means much more to me now, recognizing how much I would have done to save my own son. God's plan, taken in its entirety, is a plan of mercy. It's a plan that accounts for all of life's complexities and trials and disappointments and disparities. It's a perfect plan, created by a perfect, all-loving, all-knowing God. Unfortunately, it's often filtered through the mouths of well-meaning church members who sometimes minimize its eternal scope to ease short-term pain. And as a result of that, we often lose sight of its real power. This series is about walking the covenant path even when it's complex. We'll ask, what do the scriptures say? What have modern prophets taught? How does this struggle look through the lens of eternal truth? So if you've experienced painful hardship, which I assume you have, and you've wrestled with how to fit life's complexities into the gospel framework, I want you to know that there's a way through. You're not an exception to the path because of some sort of unique circumstances. You don't have to abandon faith to support someone you love. Instead, we can look to modern prophets, ancient scripture, and our covenant connection with God to guide us through the mist of darkness. And if I do my job correctly, immediately after watching these videos, you'll turn them off and you'll head straight to those sources. My name is Sky, and this is Faithful Anyway.